Welcome to Voice Bootcamp, a global name in unified communication. Hello, my name is Faisal Khan, CEO and founder of VoiceBootcamp.com. In this video of Voice Bootcamp CCNP Collaboration 2020 Self-Study Kit, I'm going to give you an overview of the implementing Cisco App Collaboration application, short form CLICA. Now, this is one of the concentration exam or courses that you have to take in order to pass the CCNP collaboration. But not only that, but this is one of the courses that you have to take in order to understand how Cisco Instant Messaging and Presence works. Now, the agenda for this particular course is to give you an understanding about the Cisco collaboration, presence, instant messaging and presence. We're going to go through the discussions in Cisco Unity Connection voice as a voicemail, Unity Express as a voicemail for small businesses, and talk about the applications. Now, obviously, you know that Cisco has a lot of hardware applications as well as software-based applications, and we're going to talk about how Java applications kind of works together in your collaborations to provide a complete solutions. We're also going to talk about how you can deploy a single sign-on authentication, whether it is via Active Directory or SAML 2.0. Now, obviously, in order for you to understand this particular course, or if you are studying this course from the ground zero, you need to have some sort of background in unified collaboration. So therefore, we're going to cover the basic component of what the various application from collaboration and what their roles are. Now, understanding the component of Cisco Unified Collaboration is very important. So here we're going to talk about what is Cisco Unified Communication Manager, or CUCM is. We're going to talk about the full version of the call manager, including the business editions, of course. We're going to talk about Unity Connection, voicemail, and Unity Express, instant messaging and presence in this course. And we're going to talk about Cisco Unified Expressway, which is very popular features right now among the collaboration platform. We're going to talk about the cube. You already know what Cisco Unified Border Element does. If not, then this is one of the areas where you really need to focus on if you really want to be specialized in collaboration. We're going to talk about WebEx technologies. Now, Voice Bootcamp do provide WebEx training, and we do have a WebEx self-study kit coming up in March 2020. We're going to also talk about what is Cisco Meeting Server, which is a conference solutions. Now, what is Cisco Unified Communication Manager Express? Think about a Cisco router. You have a Cisco router like 2900 series or 2800 series router. Basically, Cisco Unified Communication Manager is taking a Cisco router, making it an IP telephony switch, or PBX. It's an iOS-based feature. It provides, it converts a Cisco router to IP-based PBX. The router becomes a telephone switch for your organizations. Now, obviously, when a Cisco phone or analog phone is connected to the router provides a dial tone and any sort of power that is necessary to the analog phone. Now, Cisco phone, of course, gets power from, let's say, your catalog switches, but the router does provide the dial tone. So what is the main purpose of Cisco Unified Communication Manager Express? Well, provide call processing when someone dials a number and control the device registering the phone. So we're going to talk about the various features of Unified Communication Manager. Now, keep in mind though, this particular course do not cover Cisco Unified Communication Manager Express in details. We're going to talk about how you can manage the Cisco Unified, or CUCM, short form we call it, using the CLI or GUI-based administration. It can provide local directory services where you can look up somebody's phone number. Now, obviously, sometimes you may need to integrate with your platform with a third party. So it does provide computer telephony integration support. It does provide SIP trunking or H.323 trunking with a service provider or another VoIP system that you might have. And one of the very good advantage of running Cisco Unified Communication Manager on an ISR platform is that you can have a voicemail, which is Unity Express module within the router or on a virtual machine to provide voicemail solution. So anyway, Cisco Unified Communication Manager was designed for a company about roughly around 450 users, depending on the platform that you have. Like for example, the low-end entry-level routers may not necessarily provide you more than 15 users or 25 users, but the high-end can go all the way up to 450. But the recommendation is that if you need more than 80 phones, it's probably better to go with Cisco Call Manager, either Business Edition or the full version, depending on what your budget looks like. All right, so how does Cisco CME phones or IP phones interact with the CME? Now think about Cisco router sitting somewhere in your data center, and you have the IP phones throughout your organization. Those IP phone will obviously obtain an IP address just like any PC. It gets an IP address along with IP address, subnet mask, default gateway, and one important thing it gets through that DHCP configuration is called option 150 or TFTP. Now, once the phone gets that information and that IP address of the TFTP happens to be the IP address of your router. Now, once the phone obtains that, the phone then communicates with the router and try to register. And of course, there are some configuration that you have to do within the router in order for the phone to register. Now, you will learn how to configure CUCM in one of our other courses that we have. All right. Now, upon making a phone call using either SSCP or SIP signaling, the router will then look up the routing table for the VoIP or dial plan to decide how to send the calls to destination. Now, here's an example of a Cisco router that we have, be it a 29, 28, 39, doesn't matter. You have IP phones that are connected to your switch. Both phones are connected to the switch right there. It will send a signal to the router using either SIP or SSCP protocol. Now, there are some advantage of running SIP versus SSCP. We'll talk about that as we go more deeper into this course. Now, once the phone communicates with the router for sending a signal, obviously the router will contact the destination phone, and the destination phone at some point will answer the call. At the moment they answer the call, the phone AX will then communicate with phone Y directly using RTP channel. Now, when that happens, what happens is when in a scenario like that, when the phone are actually talking to another phone, phone A talks to phone B, and they have established an RTP session between them, the CUCM does not really have to exist at that moment for the communication to continue. I mean, at that moment, if the CUCM goes down for some reason, the phone will continue to communicate as long as they have layer 2 and layer 3 connectivity. However, when the router does go down, it cannot forward a call, transfer a call, or even make a new call, because those features will require presence of Call Manager Express. So this is how Cisco Unified Communication Manager Express kind of works. Now, it is again designed for small business for up to 450 users. But then what about if your company is big enough and it does not support, it requires more than 400, or even if it is 200, doesn't matter. Well, you may go to the next version that is called the Cisco Unified Communication Manager, the server edition. Now, this is a server edition. Now, when we talk about server, we're talking about 64-bit servers from either Cisco UCS or IBM or third party. So you basically use a server which becomes an IP-based PBX for your organization. Now, it is an appliance. That means that when you install the proper software properly, you cannot install any third-party application on that particular server. Some servers, if it's Windows-based, we could have just simply installed antivirus, firewalls, and various other things. But with this, you cannot do that. It is an appliance. So what it does, it basically locks your system into an appliance mode. You only have limited access to the root access. Actually, you don't have a root access, but you do have a CLI access that gives you limited functionality. Now, what is the purpose of this Cisco Unified Communication Manager? Well, it is a full-fledged PBX, IP-based PBX, of course. It does provide core device control, meaning managing the phone. It provides call routing, so when you dial a number, it looks up the number, processes the call, forward the calls to wherever it needs to. It also provides permissions and features and various other tasks that could be useful for day-to-day productivity. Now, it is designed to provide full audio and video telephony solutions. At best, it can provide point-to-point video communication between the two endpoints. It is, as I said, it is an appliance-based install on a VMware ESXi, and the whole system is designed in a redundant fashion, meaning that from a production perspective, you can actually deploy this solution in a cluster. Now, we'll talk about cluster in the next slide. So you can provide a unified communication manager on a server, which is not only provide all the features of IP telephony and video telephony, but it also provide redundancy. Now it also has a built-in disaster recovery. So at any given time, if you need to take a backup or restore, you can do so right from the platform. So it has a very sophisticated disaster recovery. Of course, you can back up this database or whatever the information you need to back up in the remote server. So you will need some sort of network files SFTP server to be able to back up your systems. So as I said earlier, the previous slide, that you can actually deploy Cisco Unified Communication Manager in a cluster. So that means that in a cluster, you will have at least, you'll have one server as a master server, often known as the publisher. The subsequent server that you install are known as subscriber. Now, in a given cluster, the very first server that you install is called the publisher. The subsequent server are called subscriber. Now, subscriber doesn't necessarily mean secondary server. Keep that in mind. And also, publisher does not necessarily mean that's a primary server. But regardless, the cluster can have a total of 1 publisher and 19 subscriber. Now, hold on. Not all 19 can be function at the same time. So the total server is 1 publisher, 19 subscribers. So therefore, 20 servers in a maximum in a cluster. But out of those 20 servers, only 8 of them that you can really do call processing. That means only 8 of them where you can register your phone. So you might be asking, what is the remaining 12 servers are doing? Well, the remaining 12 servers are basically used for additional functions like conference bridge, music on hold, DHCP server, CTI manager, whatever the dual functionality you want. Now, Cisco recommendation is that the maximum 8 servers should be used as a call processing, and you will distribute them using what we call call manager group. Now, the database, there are 2 types of database that you have in Cisco Unified Communication Manager. The first database is the master database, which is read and write. And that is a database going to be stored on your publisher. Now, whenever you install a publisher, that database is created, provide you read and write access. But whenever subscribers are installed, subscriber will obtain the publisher database from the central as a read only. So it gets a copy of it as a read only. But that database is, though copy of a master database contains all the information from the master, but the subscriber cannot write to it. But both publisher and subscriber will have another set of database called user-facing database or runtime data. And that database is read and write on both server. So that means publisher has a read-write control over its own feature database. Subscriber has a read-write access to this own feature database. So why do we have a 2 database? Well, first of all, the master database, or we call sometimes static database, is basically a database that whatever changes that the administrator make, like adding a phone, adding a user, adding trunk, gateway, route pattern, those are type of settings will be stored in the static database. Now, anytime we make changes, we're going to make that changes to this publisher. The publisher will then replicate that information to subscriber on a given interval. Now, again, even if you are logged in to subscriber interface, the changes that you make are still being done on the publisher. But if David decided to go on a vacation and he picks up his phone and forward the phone to, let's say, his cell phone, that settings that David just made to his phone, well, it will get stored on the database whatever that phone is registered to. So if that phone is registered to subscriber A, then whatever changes that David made in terms of call forwarding will get stored into the user-facing database. Now, of course, after David have made that change, the rest of the cluster has to know about that change. So what the user-facing database does, subscriber will then upload the data or replicate the data to the publisher. Publisher will then distribute it to the remaining subscribers. So this is how, if the publisher and subscriber relationship is, a subscriber will then upload all the update rather to the master database. The master will then distribute it to the rest of the cluster. So this is basically how the responsibility of the two databases are. Now there is a restriction though in this scenario. This scenario is that the distance between the publisher and subscriber cannot be more than 80 milliseconds round trip delay. So you want to make sure that you put one server in Toronto and maybe another server in Las Vegas, which is perfectly fine. But if you want to put a second server, another subscriber in like Singapore, chances are you're going to have a problem with the database replication. Because if the servers are apart from each other and is more than 80 milliseconds, chances are that database replication will fail and the information will be out of sync. Now it doesn't mean that your system will stop functioning. It's just simply meaning that information may be out of date. So keep that in mind, that between the publisher and subscriber there is a distance restriction, and that should be 80 milliseconds or less. Now the Cisco use Informix database, which is a one-way push replication where publisher will hold the master copy. Changes to the databases are implemented from the publisher to the subscriber database. The standard call manager cluster can support a single publisher and up to 19 subscribers. 8 of them can be configured as a call processing device. Therefore, the phones are registered to that, and remaining server could be distributed for various other services. But in a small or budgeted environment, you could probably run everything on 1 or 2 servers depending on your number of users that you have. But any given cluster, there is a restriction of how many maximum phone that you can be registered. We'll talk about that in the next few slides. Unity connections. In Cisco Unified Communication Platform or Collaboration Platform, Unity connection is used to provide voicemail. It provides unified and integrated messaging and voice recognition. It allows call transfer rule to easy to manage system for medium size to up to 20,000 users. Now you can have multiple Unity connection cluster can be joined using a digital or HTTPS network system. Now Unity connection can support up to 100,000 users or mailboxes, and it can be available in a business edition of the call manager. Now what is a business edition? Let me step back a little bit. First of all, you have the call manager, the server-based solution, an individual application that you install on a server. And as I said, is an appliance, so therefore you cannot have any other software installed. But if you use the business edition template, then what happens is Cisco allows you to install call manager and Unity connection both in the same software server. So basically, from a single server can provide call PBX, voicemail, instant messaging, and many other platform applications. So that's what the business edition does. Unity Express, which is a voicemail solution for small businesses, up to 500 users, and it can be integrated with the Cisco Business Edition 4000. It can be integrated with the ISR routers as a module inside the routers or connecting to the virtual machine. But it does not support unified messaging at this moment. All right, now next topic is what is the Cisco Unified Instant Message and Presence? That's a chatting software. Basically, that's the main important aspect of it, that you get to see the other people's status, and it gives you the ability to chat, communicate, video conferencing. It can do whiteboarding, many different collaborative type of application. So a presence is basically a standard-based dual protocol enterprise instant chatting and network-based presence. It incorporates extensible communication platform that supports SIP simple protocol to collect user status. So presence is like if I add you to my Java as a buddy list or colleague, and whenever you go offline or you're on hook or off hook or you're busy on the phone, I will get a status notification by looking at the color of your icon of your beside your name. That's an indication that you are busy. So that's what that kind of the nutshell what the presence does. But I can chat with you even if I'm not talking to you. So while you might be on the phone, I can still chat with you using a presence to communicate. So presence provides a way to be productive in your environment where you can talk to a user at the same time you can chat with someone at the same time you can do a web conference or whiteboard features. Cisco Expressway, which is a solution that allows you to remove the VPN. You no longer need to use a VPN for IP phone from outside world to communicate with your IP phone inside world. So Cisco Expressway offers users outside your firewall a simple, secure access to collaboration workload, including video, voice, content, instant messaging, and presence. Now, Expressway is designed specifically for comprehensive collaboration application, and it is designed to provide firewall traversal. That means that there is minimum configuration that you need in the firewall for people from outside world to register to your internal platform or communicate with your platform. So it is one of the very hot technology right now. A lot of companies are deploying it. And if you have an experience in this presence, obviously Expressway, you will have a better chance in terms of the job market. Now, what it does is basically at the heart, it removes the need of VPN for remote phone. User will use the existing internet technology such as SSL certificate to establish communication. Now, we'll talk about the advantage and disadvantage of the Expressway into the appropriate topic or subject, but just to give an idea what it does at this moment. Now, we all know what a WebEx technology is, right? Well, WebEx is a cloud-based collaboration suite from Cisco. Well, of course, Cisco purchased that and now become a Cisco. So you can use a cloud platform where you can provide calling features on the cloud, no physical hardware you need to purchase. You can integrate the Cisco WebEx cloud IP phone with your onboard call manager IP phone using hybrid integrations. So we do have a course and dedicated subject videos on the WebEx technology as well. Now, as of in CCNP Collaboration 2020, WebEx technology is actually part of one of the modules that you have to learn if you want to maximize your investment in unified collaboration. So, Telepresence Conductor, although we're not going to talk about much details about that, Telepresence Conductor is more about managing conference resources throughout your organizations. So this is something to do with more of a telepresence bridge and conference bridge and whatnot. We'll talk about that in collaboration edge applications. All right, so this is what we have in mind in terms of giving you an idea about what unified collaboration is. And you need to have a little bit of details knowledge about each one of these products for you to be able to master it and deploy it. Now, of course, in this particular module, we're going to talk about Unity Connection, Unity Express, instant messaging, and well, that's pretty much it for collaboration application perspective. All right, so I hope you learned a little bit about the overview, and I will see you in the next video.